Well, today, guys, we got a talking video. We're talking about workbenches. Specifically, I'm talking about my workbench. Now, what I want to do in this video is go over the design and features of my workbench to help you if you're currently figuring out how you should design your own. Now, YouTube has a lot of videos of guys talking about their design of workbench, and they all think they have the best because it's what they built. Honestly, most of them are full of crap because the whole point of a workbench is it fits your needs, not theirs. Who cares how they build stuff? This is about you, how you build stuff. So I'm hoping by explaining my workbench, my features, it may help at least a few of you with some ideas when you build your own. Let's start with the tabletop. Now on my workbench, this serves quite a few purposes because I got a small-ish shop here, so I'm trying to cover a lot of needs. This serves as a workbench and an outfeed table and an assembly table and storage. So here's what I did here. My workbench top is a 3/4 sheet of MDF followed by a 3/4 sheet of plywood, and then I added a pine border just for look. That doesn't matter. Now because of that, it's dead flat, which is great. That's really nice. However, I will say if I had to build a workbench again, I would either go with a thick solid wood top or a melamine laminated surface. Couple reasons. One, the thick solid wood top. That's really nice because a workbench, no matter what, is gonna get dinged up and used. As you can see, I mean, I just resurfaced this workbench within the last few months and it's already pretty beat up. So at some point I may have to sand this down again. But with plywood, there's only a few times where I can do that where I start getting really weird chunks because of the differences between the layers of plywood, where a solid wood top would be easier to do that. Now, another option, melamine, that's really great for glue surfaces because the glue just picks off like nothing and it's very durable. So that's a great choice for a workbench if you're doubling as an assembly table and outfeed table. Now, another feature on my workbench here is I added some dog holes. I didn't always have these, but I did add these at some point because I'd be using a biscuit joiner or domino joiner or something of that nature. And what would happen is I'd have a piece of wood that I'm trying to add biscuit slots to, and it was really awkward to find a safe and reliable way to hold it, to hold the joiner in place and plunge it without the piece sliding around on the table. So with the dog holes, that makes it really easy to take whatever dog of your choice. You know, I got some that are just wood. These work. You know, that's not going anywhere. So I can easily hold the biscuit joiner. That's not going anywhere. That's fine. You can also buy different kits from people. These are some Craig ones, and these happen to fit the same dogs that I have too. They also work to hold things up. There's a lot of different uses. So I would recommend dog holes or some type of hold down or stopper system in your workbench if you're using something like a biscuit joiner or domino joiner, something to help hold pieces in place from sliding around. Now, I mentioned I use my workbench for a lot of different features, assembly table, outfeed table, workbench, storage. So let me dive deeper into that to show you how I fit all those features into this workbench. First of all, sometimes I have to rip really long sheet goods, and with a very long 6-foot workbench, it works great as an outfeed table because I can get full sheets through the table saw onto the workbench, and they're supported the whole time because I have it the same height as my table saw. Now this is the front of my workbench, or what I call the front of the workbench. This is where I stand easily 90% of the time because all of my tools on this wall are within reach. And if you come around this way, I have a whole bunch of drawers on this side of the workbench. So this top drawer, I have tape measures, pencils, knives, levels. Below that, I have different types of clamping or measuring jigs, extra blue tape and all of that. And down here, I have gluing stuff and other types of jigs and whatnot. Below that, I got sanding stuff. And then over here, I got hammers and wrenches. And then here, I have chisels and extra saws, and then supplies down here like filters. So I guess my point here is take the time to figure out where you're going to be standing in your shop, because here I have all these tools at reach, and behind me, every other tool I have. So if I'm assembling something, everything I need, I can just spin around and go in a particular drawer and I have it all accessible at once. You know, try to avoid chasing around to different ends of your shop. Figure out where you're going to be doing assembling, the tools you need, and try to design everything in your shop around that purpose. Now on the other side of my workbench, this one is more self-explanatory. It's a bunch of cubby holes for different tools. Mostly the bulk stuff, I couldn't figure out a good place to put it, but still wanted it accessible if I'm assembling things. So I have cases for different nail guns, or extra router, or for the domino or biscuit joiner. So consider something like this. This side of the workbench is more of my less used side, so it's a good place to take up storage for tools that you don't need all the time, but in the off chance that you got to take it out for assembly, it's easy to walk over and grab it, slap it on the table, and you're good to go. Now the last thing I want to talk about is the size of your workbench. So mine, if we measure it quick, see how easy that was? You know, the tools you use a lot, try to keep them close to where you want to work. That's something to think about when you're designing a workbench. Now mine, if you're going exact, it's like 35¼ inches deep by 73¼ inches long, but it's basically 3 feet by 6 feet. Now I used to have a 4 foot by 8 foot workbench, but that didn't work. Couple problems with that. 4 feet deep, that didn't work. Because if I reach to the end of my workbench, I can reach 3 feet pretty easily. You know, that's kind of at the end of where I want to reach, where I'm able to reach without walking around the table to pick something up. So that's something to think about. Do you want to make it where something could be out of reach, where you want to walk around to the other side of the workbench and then walk back and then walk back and then walk back and do that over and over? You know, that's a pain. So if you don't need that 4 feet depth to actually assemble something, you don't need it. You know, make sure things are actually in reach of where you're standing. Now for the length, I went with 6 feet because I really don't have the space for 8 feet. It took up way too much space and I didn't need that. You know, with a 3 foot by 6 foot table, everything I build, I can assemble on here just fine. As an outfeed table, plenty of length. You know, this much table easily holds the outfeed of a full sheet good as I rip it through the table saw. So something to think about is you don't necessarily need the biggest workbench possible. Try to downsize it to what you actually need. You may have to do some trial and error, but for me, 3 foot by 6 foot is what worked best. So there you have it. A quick rundown of my workbench, why I designed it the way it is and the features, and I hope you learned something from this, even if you learned what you don't want, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's what you want. That's the point of your workbench. It's to serve you. Don't listen to anyone that says you have to build a workbench a certain way. It's whatever is going to help you either be more efficient or enjoy this craft. That's all it really comes down to. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. I prefer just making build videos, but yeah, I enjoyed making this one anyway because I have a very specific design that I picked for my workbench, so I thought maybe it would help a couple people. But thanks for watching.